Hello, many thanks for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Ayodele Ozugbakun. Today on the program, Kano State Governor says no reconciliation between Ganduje and Kwakwanso. President Buhari overrules Health Minister, recalls suspended NHIS boss. And later on the show, Nigeria pays US government $496 million for acquisition of 12 Tucano fighter jets as Abubakar Shekau shows his frustration over bombardments. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Afolabi Akinola. So if you are ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us. Once master and servant loyalists, Senator Rabiu Kwakwanso and Governor Abdullahi Ganduje are now at Dagadron in a battle for the soul of Kano State. Last week, Kwakwanso was prevented from entering the state after the police said his presence could cause political unrest. He threatened to force his way in, but an intervention from the presidency saved the day. Days later, 6 members of the Kwakwanso and Ganduje groups were injured in a clash. Now, Ganduje has ruled out reconciliation between the two pressure groups. He said the time has come for Kwakwanso to kiss its political future in Kano goodbye, as there will be no more for red caps. No more red caps, that's the symbolic red dress of Kwakwanso. Will the crisis between the two gladiators ever be resolved? Earlier, I think some days back, we actually treated this topic, and just let's watch this. I will come back to discuss more.
Let's not bother ourselves. When entrenched interests are at play, you can't resolve disputes.
What's the best option? To stay within the APC or port to PDP to get the presidential ticket?
If he stays in PDP, APC, he will never get the ticket.
He will never.
He will never get the ticket. He knows that already. So the best bet for him is to go to where he's probably wanted. As things stand now, even members of his party have given up on APC. They don't call themselves APC members.
Kwakwanso.
So
who are the Gandujeas?
That was also important. I think one of the callers was saying that the supporters of the two of them have made things worse. I agree absolutely. There are some supporters of the governor who have made a habit of abusing Kwakwanso. Yeah. And people are saying the governor has refused to call them to order. People like Ilyasu, So if let me not say if they want to make peace, because I've ruled out the possibility. Of, knowing Ganduje, knowing Kwakwanso, that is very vindictive, nobody will be able to resolve this conflict.
That was our previous edition on that, and Babajide aptly predicted, as we used to do on this program, that, look, it's almost a case of no retreat, no surrender. Yeah. Looking at Kano State and how central Kano State is to the interest of whoever wants to become the president of Nigeria, let's start from there, because we know the kind of role. Kano State was like the game changer for President Muhammadu Buhari. APC had 1.9 million votes from Kano, and the former administration of Goodluck Jonathan, the votes that was coming in thereafter could not meet up that 1.9 million deficit. So Kano is a battleground, and it's key and strategic. Jide, does this have anything to do with 2019?
It has everything to do with 2019. And you see, I know the two characters very well. That's why I said nobody can resolve this conflict. I don't want to discourage Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has been given a mandate to resolve disputes in the APC that he did not create. I don't want to discourage him, but he's going to find it extremely difficult. You see, both men have been attacking one another. Recently, some young politicians came from Katsina. They are supporters of the governor of Katsina State, Aminu Bello Masari. They came and Kwakwanso was addressing them, and he told them that he had they had a medicine for treating mad people. Now, kuna de maganin auka, you have medicine for treating mad people. A Kano mona de wonema okachi. In Kano we have a certain mad person. When you talk like this, you expect your opponent to respond. So when the vice president came to Kano, because the radio programs, the radio stations in Kano, they are very strong on political programs. All of these sound bites from politicians, you know, they always feature them on their program. So clearly, the governor of Kano probably listened to that program or somebody recorded and played it to him. He knew he was clearly being referred to as a madman. So when the vice president came to Kano at the airport, journalists asked him for his comments on the coalition that Obasanjo is trying to put together. The first thing he said was that that coalition was not Obasanjo's coalition, that it was Kwakwanso's coalition. You see, when you see people who don't want dispute to end, you will know. He said that coalition is actually not Obasanjo's coalition, but it is Kwakwanso's coalition. You know? And then after that, he addressed, days after, he addressed politicians in the state. That was where he now said, look, forget this issue of reconciliation. There's nothing like reconciliation, that the days of the red cap are numbered, that even he,
that's the trademark of
yes, of the Kwakwansia group, that even he will soon stop putting on the red cap. So it is clear that when entrenched interests are at play, because politics is an interest-driven game, when entrenched interests are at play, it's going to be extremely difficult. That's why you find people refusing to stay in a party because someone is there. Because he knows that that person, as long as that person is there, his own interest is in danger of being frustrated. There are people here, you remember we had an event and we saw a big politician, and we were asking him, many of your mates have joined the APC in Lagos. Why haven't you joined the APC in Lagos? And he said, no, because of a particular person that we will not mention here, that he will never join the APC in Lagos. So that is the thing. It was actually Shekarau, the former governor of Kano, who did the legwork for the registration of the APC. But the moment Kwakwanso came in, and that tussle began for who should be the leader of the party. Both of them were former governors. He had to leave the party for Kwakwanso. So these are people now that invariably when Asiwaju Tinubu goes out, he should be looking for ways to bring in people like Ibrahim Shekarau, because he's still very strong in Kano. He still has people. So, and if you can bring him in, and Kwakwanso leaves the APC for them, as is most likely to happen, then maybe people like Shekarau will be back in APC.
Afolabi, when you look at the kind of politics we play, as in interests interests, their own interests. It's never about us.
I think this he has demonstrated a high level of analysis as far as the issue between both parties are concerned. But I'll look at it. I want to be a bit academic, because the Marxist says that history of man throughout history has always been the history of class struggle. What we are seeing today about the political gladiators between the Kwakwanso and the Ganduje, the present governor of Kano State, is simply, conflict interest between two classes. I will appreciate a situation where if the basis of your disagreement, the basis of your agitation, the basis of whatever must have been the difference between both parties is about project and dividends of democracy.
Policies.
Policies that are clearly about infrastructural development, about mental infrastructure, not necessarily stomach infrastructure, and so many other beautiful things that will give democracy a good definition. If, as populous as Kano State is, interestingly, I'm a product of BUK because I'm familiar with that environment. That environment determines so much about Nigerian future, which he has rightly said. If you have that kind of population, and what is supposed to be of paramount interest to Nigeria is not clearly examined and put into consideration, if your conflict of interest is about just class, not necessarily the populous, trend of people in Kano State who ordinarily, if you are next potentials, that state will have been a very interesting state for Nigerian development. So in this scenario, I will appreciate and I will make a genuine appeal with due respect to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which of course, the mandate has been given to him to ensure that there's a proper reconciliation. The reconciliation in most cases should be to the best interest of Nigeria in terms of dividend of democracy, not necessarily clash interest. Interest that at the end of the day will lead to bloodshed and all that. Because the volatility of Kano State should be taken into consideration. Kano is different from other states in Nigeria. I've been privileged to witness all sorts of things in that environment. The volatility of that environment should not be democratically enhanced. So our enhancement should be to define dividend of democracy. So I think the major political gladiators should take one thing into consideration. No blood of any Nigerian, no blood of any Nigerian is what, the personal ambition of any individual.
All right. Let me quickly take this breather. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Journalist Hangout. We're reaching you live from Television Continental, and we're looking at the political crisis in Kano State. Mustafa Ogunshakin is just joining us. Mustafa, before you came in, we were talking about the crisis between the former governor of Kano State, that's Senator Rabiu Musa Kwakwanso, and Governor Abdullahi Ganduje. What do you make of this? I'm sure you'll be following it.
Yes, I found what my brother Jide has just said. The analysis he has made, I think is just fantastic, and the contribution of my brother here. You see, Nigerian politics has always been about interest of political gladiators, particularly the so-called godfathers and their godsons and all that stuff. That has always been the challenge about the Nigerian political landscape. I don't think what is happening in Kano now is totally different from that. Only that the volatility in that place and the interest that this present government should take in that place cannot be quantified. If you recollect well, I think His Excellency the President had the highest volume of his votes from Kano. I think the President himself should take a personal interest for his own political survivor, in that place, to know how to sort out the political differences. I was reading this afternoon when the incumbent governor said that there's no solution, that they're going to fight forever, they're going to do this. And I want to appeal that that is not the way out. I mean, for even their own political survival at that level, you must give and take so that at least the whole society will be able to move forward.
It's as if Babajide, I don't, from our analysis earlier, nobody's ready to give, nobody's ready to. Now, talking about the complicity of President Muhammadu Buhari in this, because beyond Abdullahi Ganduje and Kwakwanso, beyond there's a third force. Kwakwanso wants President Buhari's seat. And even before the 2015 election, if I remember, it was here in Lagos that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu called Kwakwanso and they were able to meet because Governor Ayodele Fayose actually alluded to the fact that APC, they are not together, that they can't win the election, that even Kwakwanso and Buhari, they are not in good terms as at that time. So that was when Kwakwanso came to Lagos and said, look, the house is in order and we deliver the highest votes, you know. So at what point in time, what is the link between Kwakwanso and President Buhari?
Actually, Buhari does not need Kwakwanso to win Kano by a landslide. In fact,
To win Kano?
he doesn't need. Buhari is so popular in Kano that he does not need anybody to win. If you put Buhari against anybody in Kano, Buhari would trounce that person overwhelmingly. And I can tell you that if not for the crisis in the CPC, you know, Buhari imposed his former ADC, Lawal Jafaru Issa, on the APC in 2011.
On the CPC?
On the CPC.
Sorry.
That was why the people now rebelled, because Mohamed Abacha had been the one financing the party. So they wanted Mohamed Abacha to become the governor. But Buhari, looking at the baggage, called the court matter and all that, felt that Lawal Jafaru Issa should be the candidate of the party instead. And about 3 days to the election, they came up with Lawal Jafaru Issa's name. But the people decided to vote against CPC. If that had not happened, Kwakwanso would never have won that election.
Protest votes?
It was the protest vote that made it the same thing that happened in Katsina, if you remember. Buhari imposed Aminu Bello Masari on them. The people wanted Adamu Damarke, who had been spending money on them, just the same way that Mohamed Abacha had been financing the CPC. That was the person that they were used to. So when you now decided to impose, they felt, no, that, yes, as much as we like you, you cannot do this to us. So they rebelled and voted for someone else. In fact, some of them tore their voters' cards, so that the temptation to go and vote will not be there. So that is what made Kwakwanso to win that election. So Buhari is so popular that, you know, I said it that in Kaduna, they were suffering on the queue. They wanted to buy fuel. Some of them have been there for 3 days. The moment they saw Buhari, they started shouting his name. They left. They forgot their suffering momentarily just by the fact that they saw the president. This kind of popularity is only God that gives it. It is a fact. It's not. I've been a student of politics for years. This kind of someone was saying something. A friend of mine was saying, look, even Usman Danfodio was not this popular.
Which is serious.
Did you see the crowd in Nasarawa again?
I saw it. I was...
Buhari, the fact is Buhari does not need Kwakwanso in Kano to win an election. So let's not think that it will hurt the president or that the president's chances of winning Kano is in jeopardy. No. You can talk about the governor because the governor has not attained that kind of political acceptability. So you can be worried for the governor. But for the president, this president, the way those people take him, you saw the crowd in Kano in the last election. It was the biggest anywhere else.
People were fainting.
And you saw what happened in Bauchi at the airport. When the moment Buhari's airplane touched down, they invaded the
the wrong way.
That one, I've never seen where that one happened.
Overwhelmed the security.
Thousands of people flooded the tarmac. That is the thing. That kind of person doesn't need anyone in Kano to win an election. It's a fact. Kano, they are watching me, they know I'm saying the truth. But it's the governor that has to really, really work hard. Because the truth is, they say all politics are local. Both of them are Kano people. They know themselves very well. So Kwakwanso knows that his political future is at stake. That here is someone who, because if Ganduje succeeds in chasing him out of the APC, it will also ensure that even winning another election after that will be difficult. Sule Lamido did it to Saminu Turaki. So he too knows that it is the battle of his life. So both of them are investing so much. The local government election will come up on Saturday. Now, the candidates of the governor have all emerged. And he will want to make sure that all those candidates of his win the election. Because, yes, because he knows that Kwakwanso will not fold his arms. Whether he's in town or he's not in town, his structures are in place. And they will challenge the governor. And even in the national
Structure is that formidable?
We don't need to exaggerate. I'm saying the person that he can't, that he can't rival in terms of popularity is the president. But I can't say that of the governor. I can't say that of the governor. The governor has a lot to do. He has a lot to do.
Let me quickly take this call. Adams is calling us. Thank you for joining us. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Mr. Jide.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
My contribution is that the present governor, Ganduje, has a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But the problem is that there is what the fact, because there will not be reconcile within them. There's no way that they will do and reconcile. So the governor has a lot of work to do, and the president is Buhari. Even 100 times Buhari is contesting in Kano, he will be winning. No doubt about that.
Thank you, Adams. Thank you, Adams. So, Afo,
Yes.
they've gotten to a point of no return, according to this analysis.
Yes, according to this analysis, a point of no return has been fully established. But again, a point of no return that has been established, it is because there is no other formidable opposition party. Because when you realize that, okay, nobody is even challenging me in the first instance, you can close the road. But take, for instance, now, if there is a strong and formidable opposition party.
Well, as Jide, we always say, the PDP is still very strong there, as in Shekarau.
You know that most Nigerian politics, in most cases, the power of incumbency is always reflecting. But it's just that what he has said in this situation, that
people vote their mind.
Nobody in the history of Nigeria, even with Madam Fode, as he has said, has been so popular like Buhari. Sometimes favor comes from God. And the way it comes, nobody can explain. Sometimes it has nothing to do with hard work. So people can be sovereign and still establish their loyalty, regardless of the circumstances on ground.
Yes.
So the loyalty in this regard is democratically indescribable. Let me just put it that way.
Okay. So, I'll quickly take another commercial break. When we'll come back, we'll talk more. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Jide, wrapping up on this and looking at how days ahead in Kano State, what do you expect to?
It will be, both camps will continue to fight one another. Even in the National Assembly, I remember the House of Reps, both camps attack one another, you know, the House of Reps. So I just hope that they will let peace reign. I don't want people's blood to be shed because of two politicians. It makes no sense, really. But right now in Kano, you see people moving around with weapons and all that.
It's very uncalled.
Dangerous sign.
It's a very dangerous sign.
It's not good.
All right, we'll leave that. We'll leave it there. We'll still keep track of that particular story. Health Minister Dr. Isaac Adewale may not be a happy man. His decision to suspend the boss of the National Health Insurance Scheme (NHIS), Usman Yusuf, was reversed by his own boss, that's President Muhammadu Buhari. On Tuesday, Buhari reinstated Yusuf 6 months after he was found guilty of gross misconduct by a ministerial panel. This decision was not welcomed by NHIS Workers Union as they staged a protest in Abuja on Thursday. They said Yusuf's reinstatement is contrary to fairness and equity. Mustafa, what's panning out here? I gather that as at Monday and Tuesday this week, this man still reported to the EFCC and is still under investigation. We're told that his passport was even seized. For him,
12 hours.
For him to be reinstated on Wednesday. What is happening here?
Power pass power. That's what we just said. But last week, coincidentally, these were the things we discussed. I mean, we did it here about insubordination of junior officers not having respect for their superiors. I think we mentioned the guy in the aviation standing. We mentioned that of the customs and the Minister of Finance. And now, just less than 1 week, we are discussing this again. And I think it is appalling. Regardless of what may be the powers of anybody, I think due process must be followed at all times. Otherwise, nobody is going to take the president serious in this kind of matters. If somebody that is junior, as a matter of fact, I remember Yusuf, before he was suspended, saying that he doesn't report to the minister, that he doesn't take his orders from the minister. He takes it from the president,
No,
that he was appointed by the president. Is that only the president can sack him? Is it not playing out?
No, by the law. By the law setting up the NHIS. That is true. But what he forgot, hold on. What he forgot was the fact that it was Oshibajo, as acting president, who gave the Minister of Health the mandate to go ahead and suspend, based on the
recommendation of the
facts presented before him. So an acting president had been given full presidential powers. So in that case, it's like the president acting, taking the directive, giving the directive.
I mean, the way this thing is playing out is not I'm not comfortable with it. Are we now saying that Oshibajo cannot give a directive? Or what is the presidency trying to play around with here? I mean, it is not, I'm not comfortable with it at all.
Not idea at all.
It's not, no matter the way, it's like even the president himself now undermining his own person that he gave the orders to be acting on his behalf. And it's not something that is palatable at all.
This administration, the first thing they told Nigeria is we are going to fight corruption. So that anything that has to do with corruption, we all agree that, look, this administration will not brood it at all. So we are not passing a guilty verdict on the NHIS, but some people are saying that once it's still under investigation, why the hurry?
I think very interestingly, in my analysis and history of investigation all over the world, I think because when you are now a judge in your own case, it's a big issue, because your presence on that seat can also affect investigation. And I think in the first time when somebody is under investigation, I think it is clear enough for such a person to at least stay clear for a while. There are precedents to back this up.
You know, the law.
There are evidential precedents.
It won't impair on the investigation procedures.
So there are evidential, precedents to prove the fact that once you have been accused, it has to be, proven beyond any reasonable level of guilt before you can, of course, come back to that. And again, very importantly, if there is no synergy in this fight against corruption, this very government will be embarrassing, let me say, itself in the face of Nigerians. One, we are talking about the acting president who gave a presidential, investigative directive on an accused person in this regard. At the end of the day, it was even embarrassingly overruled now, because I will use that language, embarrassingly overruled. And I want us to also understand one thing about appointments. There are people before the emergence of Mr. President that Mr. President personally sees them as someone who cannot be faulted. Do you understand what I'm trying to explain? That this person is as clean as anything. So if you are passing your own verdict, however colorless it could be, to such individual is not guilty. And I will, of course, encourage Mr. President to do justice in this bill, of course, because you won't expect somebody like acting president then, or who is the vice president now, to be very happy with this development.
Jide,
so the synergy is not there at all.
Yesterday morning,
synergy is not there.
When this story broke yesterday morning, the first thing I just had to put a call to Jide, do you know what is happening and everything? He said he was reading this thing. Who is Usman Yusuf? Because from what Mustafa Ogushaki just said, I perceive power play and I perceive, power.
No, the thing is, that's why I blame the presidency all the time, because I see their imprints all over this. But what we expect of the president is to get hold of his kitchen cabinet, get hold of the people who work for him. They've misled the president for too long, and if you continue to allow the people who work for you to mislead you, they will eventually lead you down the dark alley, and then you will regret it. I've said this repeatedly because I know how selfish, clueless, and incompetent some of the people around the president are. They are also very selfish. So, and I see their hands in what has happened. You know, this Yusuf worked abroad and then brought in. He knows that procurement issues abroad are taken seriously. And then you come to NHIS to work, and you are giving contracts above your approval limit. You can't do that, because it's something that naturally should send you to jail. That is what has happened. And when that thing happened, he claimed that, the minister, is because the minister asked him for one favor or the other, this, and the normal way that the Nigerians talk. And then some of his supporters said, this thing is political. Explain it. Explain how political it is. Because the man who is a minister of health has never been a politician. He's been a VC, an activist,
So it's coming from a due process background.
So how do you say this is political? You say it is political, but you can't explain. The truth is, if your approval limit is just about 5 million, and you go ahead to buy a Jeep in excess of 50 million, honestly, you should end up in jail. That's the way I see it. If we must follow follow our law, by the letters of our law, you cannot breach the Procurement Act and expect that you won't be punished. So this man, and that's not the only thing, they accused him of spending so much money on training, but that they discovered in the course of their investigations that there were actually more people penciled down for training than the number of staff of the scheme. So these are issues that have to be investigated. And then we heard that the president has summoned both of them. What do you want as a president? What do you want to be telling the minister?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
The ideal thing is let the EFCC finish its investigation. And that's why we were talking about our institutions, the need for our institutions to be strong yesterday.
Yes. As a matter of fact,
if the EFCC had, what's it called?
Autonomy.
Look at what that guy at FBI, look at what he did to Trump. He told the president, no, my loyalty is to my country.
Honestly.
So if there is no interference in the work of the EFCC, let the EFCC do its work. And if the EFCC says this person is not guilty, then he can return to his job. But now we are being told that, that this man, the investigation will not stop.
Let me quickly pick Olawale's call. Wale is calling us from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Olawale.
Okay, long time. Good evening.
Wale, it's been a while. Yeah, Wale used to be regular.
They've not been picking my call, though. I don't know my offense.
Oh, Wale.
Let them give his
Okay, Wale, you give my producer your number.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, my encyclopedia.
I agree too.
Yeah, and the other members.
Thank you.
As far as this case is concerned, the case of NHIS, I'm sorry the president has put. As a retired director in the Federal Public Service, there are two things that can happen in this type of situation. If a prima facie case has been established against you, okay, you can be suspended. Yes. You get that? But if you are still under investigation, you can be interdicted. Yes. And the ex-minister, according to the power given to him, can interdict any chief executive under him. And he has done the right thing by doing that. And it is further compounded by the fact that the EFCC and ICPC are currently investigating this man, which means a prima facie case has been established against him. They should have allowed that procedure to be concluded. So, in short, the president is encouraging, 1, impunity, 2, insubordination, 3, and disrespect for the authority. God bless you.
Thank you, Wale, for your brilliant contribution always. And Jide, you were saying something before, yes, Wale.
I was going to say, we've read reports that, that his return to work will not affect the investigation. I mean, that they will continue with his investigation. What's the meaning of that? Because in that position, he can block loopholes. In that position, he can compromise the investigation. And maybe even that's why the workers are now saying, no, this guy can't come back to work. He can't come back to work.
This is why in criminal matters, an accused person will be kept maybe in prison custody or somewhere so that it will not jeopardize investigations. So it is normal.
And I think it's coming back again.
Afolabi, I wanted to ask you that yesterday I saw Alhaji Lai Mohammed trying so hard to defend this. And when I saw the pictures during the FEC meeting yesterday, before the FEC meeting, you will notice that when people, the vice president and some other people surrounded the minister, you know that, look, all is not well with this, this move. And
you don't repair a faulty generator by painting it. Because in the course of any public relation to any action that must have been taken, maybe in error or anything, the due process matter of the case must be thoroughly followed. So no matter how you can paint a faulty generator in this regard, it will not fly. So I think in the interest of posterity, because nobody is above mistake, there are presidential mistakes, no doubt about that. It is not too late.
You must that decision.
It's not too late. Precedent is very key because, in fact, he who comes to equity.
Because if something is happening for the first time, the second time, the third time, we can no longer call it a mistake.
No. Yes.
The impression the presidency is giving right now is that some animals are more equal than even their senior officers. I mean, look at this guy, the guy in the pension fraud. I mean, the one that was called into Mina. Is it not the same thing that is happening now?
And again, we have a vice.
Some people are just there. Unfortunately, I mean, like Jide said, that some people are misleading the president. With all respect, we didn't vote for those people. We voted for the president.
Should take charge.
And so, if the president, with all respect, I mean, allow the to be misled.
You see People don't understand why I always say this. But God will spare our lives.
Amen.
The president's wife came out to say that the president knew just 3 individuals. All these appointments, that it is those guys. It's the cabal that brings people. Oh yeah, appoint this one, there, appoint. Even El-Rufai said it now. So if I see someone who is not competent in one position, I'm already thinking of how he got there.
But I think for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we have a president that is lucky to have a capable vice president. So there are some mistakes that are not pardonable.
I said it on
a capable vice president.
I said it was.
He's a professor of law.
If we miss this opportunity, whether God knows where we're going to have
A
it.
capable vice president is a professor of law.
All right, let's deal with the third topic. And while the army may have declared an infantile absolute victory over Boko Haram, the federal government is still in the arms market, where it has already paid a whopping sum of $496 million for the acquisition of 12 Super Tucano fighter jets from the United States of America. Minister of Defense, that's Mansour Dan Ali, retired, said the bomber jets would be delivered as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Abubakar Shekau is crying out over losses befalling his group. He could not hide his frustration over the continued losses suffered at the hands of the government troops in a new video. Is it finally Uhuru with insurgency in Nigeria? Julie, before we talk about this Super Tucano, because you wanted to really dwell on that and tell us the function of this. Shekau, this dimension of Shekau, I didn't hear what I was saying in that video. But the bottom line is that, we'll be talking about the Air Force.
Yes.
That bombardment, the area bombardment. Yeah. You said they spend
$130 million every month just buying fuel.
Buying fuel?
Yes.
And each of these bombs?
Each of those bombs in the region of maybe 10,000 euros.
10,000 euros. And they move around.
It depends on the size.
They move around.
And they bomb them every day, round the clock. They bomb them at night, they bomb them in daytime. It's an expensive war. And we see an opportunity now to finish off the war. We are collaborating with the Cameroonians. You even complain about it in the video.
Really?
Yes, that you people are building alliances with Cameroon that you will all fail. For me, I see some Nigerians celebrating what he said. But I'm not bothered, because if you do a video...
Did he show any sign of distress?
You see, Shekau is a mental case. Now, if you do a video of 15 minutes, you spend 14.30 minutes, 14 minutes, 30 seconds, issuing threats. And then in the final, maybe a final paragraph, you are saying, even if you die in this process, you are going to... I don't see that as capitulating. If he wants to capitulate, he knows what to do. Let him surrender. Our chief of guests are still with him. He was even boasting in that video that the police women that he kidnapped, that if you are saying you've defeated me, why don't you come and pick them? That I'm still here in Sambisa. Because there was a story that came out earlier that, they've been chased out of Sambisa. And I said last week that, no, you can't say that. You can't say that. But I'm happy that the army spokesman said today that we have not completely taken over Sambisa. There is an ongoing effort. Nobody can say that and expect that it will be believed. You can't take over Sambisa just like that. You don't even have enough troops to do that. So they will always find some pockets of space within Sambisa where they can hide.
Do they have underground?
There are tunnels in Sambisa. I've said that repeatedly. There are tunnels.
Can that prevent them from the heavy bombardment?
Of course. There was an occasion when Nigerian Air Force jet was bombing Boko Haram fighters, and they were all running in one direction. Running in one direction. Suddenly, they vanished. What that meant was that they were running to the point where they can enter that tunnel. Because those tunnels were built in those days when Abacha was using that place to train the strike force and the BGs. So those tunnels were built. They looked at that place as having a military value. So they used it. And Boko Haram decided to use that place. It's of immense value to them because this is a forest that is about 6% of Nigerian space. And they can move from one place to another. Shekau is constantly moving. Because we don't get to see him with say all kinds of stories. Oh, he's paralyzed. But you saw him yesterday that was on his feet. As long as he's on his feet, as long as we've not killed him, Ayo, we've not killed him, we've not killed his lieutenants. The other group, the Mama Noor group, Abanawi, we've not killed Abu Musab Abanawi, we've not killed Abba, his younger brother. We've not killed Mama Noor, who is like the leader of the group. That one is a politician. It's a Borno politician. They are still there. And both camps are keeping Chibok girls. Both camps have kidnapped different sets of Nigerians. So as long
We
as
still have our lecturers with them.
you see, they are still keeping them. Those you saw the women who are crying the other day that please do your best to save us. They will keep releasing this video. As long as we've not done that, even the president said he would never agree that he has won the war. But I'm happy for one thing about this Shekau, because in December 2016, you know, the army came up with Operation Gamma Aiki. So Shekau now did a video and was making fun of them. Kuna soku hutane, amana neza mufara. He said, when you said you are doing Operation Gamma Aiki means finish the job. He said you want to rest. But this is where we are going to start. So he said, Kuna soku hutane, that you want to rest. But we are not going to give you a chance to rest. And he was telling his people, Akashi, Ayanka, Adine Monalane. And I said, you cannot tell us that this religion is the religion of God. Because Allah cannot just tell you to be cutting people's necks like that. So at least he's feeling it now. It's a good thing that he's feeling the pinch.
Afolabi?
My take on this is that, well, kudos to the federal government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for, you know, brilliant, intelligent initiatives from our military and air force in addressing this very issue. But I think the best arsenal so far in life, because we are not fighting foreigners, this must be taken into consideration. We are fighting Nigerians like us, who should understand that the greatness of this country is a collective responsibility of all. The only arsenal I'm appealing to all Nigerians to use is that these people also have relations. They are part of us. They speak Nigerian language and all that. They should please, you know, surrender. And if they want to surrender in this case, I also appeal that I want to, because it's not helping us. This is a country
some of them have been surrendering.
This is a country that is also expecting a lot of foreign investment and all that. Nobody will come and invest in your country when the security of lives and property cannot be guaranteed. So it's an international issue, apart from even the national issue. It's my appeal.
I will appeal to the Mr. President to appoint you as a mediator.
Honestly, it's a serious challenge. Nigeria, we are spending so much money on this.
Yes, you know, over a period of time, we have said here several times, Jide continuously made a statement. This is the dry season now. And the Nigerian troops and other allied troops, they have an opportunity to make a difference before the rain starts again. I don't think these people are beyond what Folabi is saying, as far as I'm concerned. Even in the letter alluded to General Babangida, he mentioned there that this is the time that the Nigerian military should take the war to these people inside Sambisa, not the minor things that they're doing outside. And I think we should...
Quickly, Babajide, I want you to tell us about this 12 Super Tucano. What is the big deal?
Yes, the thing is, when you want to buy military hardware, you look at what is going to be very useful to you in your environment. The Super Tucano can be used as a surveillance aircraft which means you can use it to pick intelligence information about the enemy, and at the same time, you can use it as a fighter aircraft. You can use it to drop its weapons on people, and then you can also land even on bare ground, which is
rugged.
Yes, you can land on bare ground, and other planes, many of the fighter planes cannot fight at the altitude that it can fight, because it can come very low, which means that precision, it can deliver weapons with precision. So it can come very low, and then it can also fight for longer period than most fighter planes. It will not need to
Longer
refuel.
periods.
Yes, it will not need to refuel, and it can just sustain its bombing mission for so long. That's an advantage that it has. It was used in Afghanistan. It was very successful in Afghanistan. So this is the first time that we are buying an equipment, that we can really trust, that it is also of very good quality.
$496 million, that's a good one. Mustafa Gunshaki, thank you for being part of this edition. I want to thank you, Afolabi.
Thanks so
Afolabi Akinola, thank you. And Babajide Kolade Otitoju, thank you. And that's it on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another interesting episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight. You can also watch Journalist Hangouts on other platforms showing on the screen. And you can also catch us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangouts at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.